Hello, and welcome back to Bridging Beings. I'm Evie, and today I'm sharing a reading that deeply, deeply moved me. This is a communication with a horse named Ogee and his person Dee during one of life's most difficult transitions. Before we begin, I want to note that Dee has given me permission to share this reading anonymously. She hoped that by sharing Ogee's story, it might help others facing similar goodbyes with their animal companions, and she was very, very grateful that we had the interaction that we had before Ogee's passing. This reading took place in September of 2025 when Dee was preparing to say goodbye to Ogee. And this is the content and the context of their conversation. So we'll start with Ogee here in the center of our reading. He's a beautiful, beautiful being still, even though he's on the other side. He's in a different plane. He is still a magnificent being. When I first connected with Ogee, I received a mix of messages from him directly and also from the energy around him. And for those of you who aren't familiar with how this works for me, I get sounds, feelings, words, images. Some of what comes through may seem a little cryptic, but I share what the animal is willing to communicate. And what they give me, I do my very best not to filter. So the very first thing I felt from Ogee was anxiety. I heard him clearly say, "I'm afraid of what happens next." And then I felt this kind of weakness or shaking in his legs, this kind of a referred pain from somewhere else in his body. And then the words liver and gastrointestinal came through pretty strongly for me. But here's what really struck me. Ogee's energy at this time was really layered. So there was certainly anxiety on the surface about what was happening to him in the physical world. But underneath there was this calm about him. He knew what was about to happen. And what worried him wasn't the ending itself. It was really the kind of tactical process and how it would feel. So he was much less worried about kind of the end result and more about the process of how that would come about. So as I kept tuning into him, a question came that really brought tears to my eyes. His question back to me for Dee was, who will take care of you? He was worried about her. He was worried about his human partner. Ogee is a sensitive, he's kind, he's a stalwart, steadfast, reliable horse. I got the serious knight in shining armor energy from him. He showed me this timeline stretching out into the distance, all the experiences he and Dee had had together, all the things they'd shared, and he was relishing every single one. So I asked him if there was one particular memory that stood out, and he said, "I'm reliving them all," which I thought was just kind of amazing. I saw the two of them riding together. There was a vista in the distance, a beautiful trail, and I got the sense that they were sort of one in the saddle. He told me they'd always been a perfect fit from the very beginning, and that phrase had multiple meanings for him. It's like a double entendre, maybe triple entendre, but it had many, many meanings for him. Then came something profound. I heard him say, "We saved each other." And this went deeper than a rescue or a purchase. He wouldn't really elaborate on that, but he said Dee would know what that meant. And then when I shared this with her, she confirmed it immediately. So again, as with my my other client, C, this is a kind of email exchange or sort of almost like a chat going back and forth between the two of us in the days leading up to Ogee's passing. So Dee wrote back to me an email that this was so accurate that from the first moment she met him, she felt like they were soulmates. She said, which of course I felt I couldn't tell too many people. So she confirmed that instant connection, the moment when they just locked eyes and she knew they'd be partnered up. I felt the reason Ogee needed to be put down seemed sort of sudden, so I told her that, but the underlying cause had maybe been there for some time. It might have been misdiagnosed or mistaken for something else, but by the time it was properly assessed, it was too late. I kept hearing from Ogee, "You could not have known." And Dee confirmed this as well. It was something that she found out suddenly that had been there for a very long time. Ogee's such a gentle spirit. He's such a lover. He's so forgiving of all the human foibles. The grace that horses have is just truly extraordinary, and Ogee's no exception. So Ogee wanted Dee to know a few things, and I really want to share that here today because I think it's so beautiful. And it's such a testament to their partnership. It's really lovely. He said, "You are the best of the humans. You have given me a life of true partnership, respect, dedication, and love. I could not have asked for anything more. You brought me out of my shell, allowed me to learn at my own pace, and loved me exactly how I was and for who I was. You saw me." He told her, obviously, if I had a choice, I would stay. And that was such a touching thing to hear. And I passed that along as quickly as I possibly could to her because, I know it was such a hard, painful time. So Ogee asked Dee for three things. And one of the things she asked me is what would he like for me to do? And he asked her for three things. Take him through what will happen step by step so he's less afraid of the tactical process that needs to happen. Spend as much time together as possible before the transition. And then do what feels like the horse equivalent of sort of holding his hand until he's gone. So just being with him until the last minute. But his final comment rather, was more of a question than a comment. It was, how can I help you with my transition, meaning Dee. Even in his final hours, he was thinking about her and how to support her after his passing, which I thought was just super lovely. So after his passing, Ogee told me that he wanted to be put to good use. And I mentioned this to Dee, and one of her friends has a bone study project specifically for horses. That's exactly what Ogee wanted, to contribute to that project posthumously. He also told me something important, that he sees death as a transformation, a form change, not an ending. And he said he'd be hanging around to send signs. And I think that's true of just about every horse that I've read that's passed over. They really see themselves as just in a new place. They're not really dead to themselves, and you can still pick up their personality and what they were when they were here in this on this plane in this life. And I asked him what sign he might send to her, and he showed me the wind, the breeze in his mane, and I mentioned this to Dee, and she confirmed, every time I feel a gentle breeze, I think of him because he was such a gentle soul. And this is true, she said this was true even when he was alive. So Dee said goodbye to Ogee in September 2025. She was the last person he physically saw before he crossed over, and he was super grateful for that. That was the one thing that he really wanted, was for her face to be the last face he saw on the way to the other side, on the way to a different plane. So, such a beautiful story of partnership, human and animal partnership, that I really wanted to share that with everyone today. Just a follow-up I thought I would bring, because it's been a few months now after Ogee passed over. Dee reached out again. She was really struggling with some self-doubt, and she was wondering, had she done enough for Ogee? Had they had enough adventures together? Did he really have a good life while they were together? So I reconnected with him, and his thought was, I'm absolutely at peace. He'd been trying to get her attention, but her guilt and anxiety were sort of blocking the way energetically. And what I saw from him, where he is on the other side in his new plane, was this just brilliant blast of sunlight behind him. So bright, honestly, it was almost blinding. He told me he was in a spot, their favorite spot, that they would adventure together. And he wanted Dee to think of the best day they ever had, because that's where he was. And I find that's often true with horses, that they will pick their very best day that they ever had in their lives. And because there's really no time where they just are perpetually living that very best day, which is just amazing. But Ogee definitely wanted to reassure Dee about the adventuring and the care he had and the companionship and partnership here. And he said, yes, I was fully satisfied with the amount and the level of adventures we took together. I would not have enjoyed an adventure that you were uncomfortable going on. And he saw himself as her partner, and supported her exactly where she was, as she supported him exactly where he was. And he said, I wouldn't change a thing. I truly love the life I got to live with you. I mean, to hear that from an animal partner, any partner, a human partner, that's just so beautiful. But his parting comment, I think, was the most beautiful of all, is that I will never leave you because I've never left you. We've traveled together lifetimes, and this one is no different. So letting her know that over the span of time and times, they've been together and they would continue to be together. This reading reminds me of, sort of several really profound truths. And I get this all the time in animal readings, in that our animals worry about us, even in their final moments, even when death is staring them in the face. And they don't tend to see, at least horses, don't tend to see death as an ending. They see it as a transformation. They're just moving from here over to here. So they're not nearly as sentimental necessarily about death. So if you're facing a similar goodbye with your animal companion, know that they understand. They feel your love, and like Ogee, they often worry about you more than they worry about themselves, because they know how humans feel about death and dying. And they really try to be there for us as much as they can. So beautiful story about Ogee and Dee. I really thank them for sharing their stories with me. I am honored to bring this story to this channel and to have brought closure and peace to Dee in a very, very difficult time. So thank you for listening and sharing this Ogee story with me. And let's do what we did last week and pull a couple of animal spirit cards and see what the universe has to say to us for the coming week. All right. Using these small cards again because I have small hands and it's a lot easier to shuffle. All right. All right. Ooh, stingray energy and the wolf. I love how I always get these really interesting cards that are sort of in two different sections, like water and earth, or air and water. It's very interesting. Okay, the stingray, developing confidence, sense of self, or spine. The stingray card represents a pivotal point in personal growth. The moment has come when the stingray must decide between the old, easy, comfortable, and familiar, and the new, challenging, uncomfortable, and unfamiliar. Pressure from family and friends makes the decision even more complicated. No matter what choice is made now, it's inevitable that this dilemma will surface again and again, as the force of Dharma growing within the stingray is too strong to ignore. When in balance, stingray energy is eager and wants to grow. When out of balance, blames others and quits. To bring into balance, move through the discomfort. Wow. Well, Ogee certainly was very uncomfortable about the process of dying up front. And as he moved through that, actually really came to appreciate Dee's presence and her attention and her love. So very interesting kind of final message. And I think for the rest of us, really, addressing the eagerness and wanting to grow and kind of moving through the discomfort that it takes to do that. Because growth is not easy. It's hard. Anything that brings change, any kind of significant change in our lives is always hard. And so sometimes just sitting with that discomfort and letting it be and letting it pass is enough to really help us along the way. Let's move on to the wolf. Wolf energy, guardian of a family and tribe, activism, ritual. The wolf's mission is to uphold the well-being and longevity of the pack. Healthy wolf energy expresses itself through activism, mentorship, humanitarian efforts, or teaching, religious or political studies. The wolf gets into trouble when it assumes every member of the tribe must follow suit. This includes children walking in their parents' footsteps. Although it will surely be uncomfortable at first, practicing tolerance helps balance out agitated wolf energy. Contemplate the following: embrace all, exclude none. When in balance, wolf energy is reliable, democratic, and fearless. When out of balance, judgmental and dominating. Bring into balance, practice letting go. So Ogee absolutely had to let go in the end, as did Dee. And, they were part of a tribe, a pack, a herd. So they were, connected, soul partners. So that's very interesting kind of exit energy. But also for us as, beings walking along the planet, to really check our judgmental and, dominating thoughts and behaviors, to really kind of let go of those and be part, of a greater part of the community. All right. That is it for this week. Thank you so much, Ogee, for being front and center of our reading today. I really appreciate you and Dee. I am honored to do these readings. I very much enjoy them. If you would like to have an animal reading of your own, please email in the description box for this YouTube channel. You can get all of the instructions for how to do that, what sort of photo to send me, sending me 3 questions to ask your animal partner, and all of those things. So thank you very much for being here this week. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you again next week. Take care.